And welcome once again to Atn Sunday. I hope you've been able to enjoy the gospel music we were able to bring to you from the hour of 7 to right about now, when we're going into another segment of the conversation here on Atn Sunday. Now, before I go ahead with what we have on Get Lifted this morning, here is our lineup. On Get Lifted, starting off right now, we'll be looking at becoming a Christian. What does it mean to become a Christian? Do you even understand what it means to be a Christian? I had an experience that shook me out of my rivalry. I'm going to share that with you shortly. But again, after that, we're going to be having a short documentary on tomato and the other fillers, and then 9 a.m. we'll go straight to Atn Sunday Talk. And today on Atn Sunday Talk, we'll be looking at Nigeria's social security program. Now, the APC is committed to the welfare of the common man, and that's coming from Osibanjo, the vice president. We'll get to know what he meant and what he was talking about in that conversation. And then we if really the APC's social welfare or social security program have been of use to the average Nigerian, and what that is actually, what it translates to in actual sense, basically to ensure that the right thing, people get to understand that the right thing is being done, or that the wrong thing is being done, as the case may be. And after that, we'll go into another segment on the Sunday Talk, and that's looking at societal reform too, and we'll be discussing Africa needs a new liberation movement. This is coming from Soludo, the former CBN governor, and of course now governor-elect of Anambra State. He was giving a speech in Abuja, and then he made these statements. Then we'll get to also find out what was he talking about, what exactly does a new liberation movement mean for us at this point in our policy. I'll be having this conversation with Clem Ofoku, who is the head of New Silverbird Communications Port Harcourt, and then Dr. DK Lawrence, who is a communication expert. But let's go into the segment on Get Lifted on Atn Sunday, and that is becoming a Christian. You know, I told you I had an experience. I've had several experiences of late, and then I was asking myself, well, how did I get to find myself in this place again? Why am I even having this experience again? These are not the things I like. I'm not comfortable. This doesn't make me a better person. It puts me in a negative spot. I'm like, God, why did you bring me into this kind of place again, to this kind of environment again? I was always complaining and saying that. And then God opened my eyes to understand certain things that I never really realized. But it didn't dawn on me until Friday night that becoming a Christian is not about going to church alone. It's not about professing your faith in public. It's not enough to say, oh, you put stickers on your vehicles and all that, and then in the name of being a Christian. It is far, far more than that. Now, I had an experience that shook me, and like I said, it has happened over and over again. Like when people do things to you and you're in position to deal with that situation, make them feel the pain you're feeling, or make them, realize the need to respect you or to do things right, as the case may be, and somehow you find yourself not being able to do that. And that's because there's a restriction inside of you to say, no, that is not the best way, because you're a Christian. And then I've had this struggle. Then something happened to me Friday night at the close of work, and I'm like, Father, I can't take this. Like, this is messing with my head. I can't, no, I have to do something to protect myself. I have to take steps to, I went on and on and on and on with myself. I talked about it with a colleague. I got home. I made some calls to talk to people that I listened to. Like, this is what happened to me this night. And I don't feel within me that I should keep quiet and not do anything about it. They spoke to me what I should do, how I should go about it. Then we finished that conversation. I went into bed. I couldn't sleep. I was rolling around. I just could not sleep, because this is like a traumatic experience that's been going on for so long. And it's like everything, this thing happens, every time it happens, nothing is done about it. So somehow people feel like they can do anything and get away with it. And you have a commitment to do certain things within that same environment. So it becomes very difficult to even say, how do you do this and how do you go about it? So in that struggle in my head that Friday night, at 2 a.m. I was still struggling. I was almost picking my phone to make call to my superior to say, this is it and this is done and all that, because I found myself in a situation where I found myself years ago, where I was being battered in fact, they battered me to the point they stripped me naked in that experience, and it messed with my head so much, and I severed all ties with it, because every time I remember that experience, there's this force within me that says, do something that will hurt these people that much too. But you know, I somehow I left that environment. I removed myself. At the point again, I'm like, okay, I need to remove myself from this environment, otherwise I'm human, and I'm forced to do something that I will regret and other people around me will regret. So this experience, I was in these thoughts. I tried to force myself to sleep. I did everything. I couldn't sleep. I was literally awake all through the night. Like, my body couldn't take the pressure. My body couldn't take the pain. My mind was remembering everything and how it has happened. And like, Holy Spirit, at that point, I'm like, Holy Spirit, what do I do? And then that's where this conversation becoming a Christian comes in this morning. The thing is that when your flesh is struggling to defend itself, when your flesh is struggling to be heard, when your flesh is struggling to, for a case of injustice to be dealt with, when you are faced with situations that you are actually in position to avenge yourself, to fight for yourself, to defend yourself, and then somehow you're not able to do that, not because you're handicapped, not because you don't have what it takes, not because you cannot do certain things about it, but somehow you pull out. But then your body, your mind is saying, no, this is not happening. You know, something has got to be done, because that's the best way. I feel like, okay, when something happens to me, I either withdraw or I do something about it to prevent it from happening again. But that night was so terrible, because I was literally watching my body move and do things that I couldn't take. I was literally shaking in anger, in pain, in feeling hurtful, and everything that has happened. So at that point, I said, Holy Spirit, what do I do about this situation? Because I don't know how else. I don't see a way around, because people cannot be opening their mouth and saying things they shouldn't say. People can't be doing things they shouldn't do, and then still feels entitled and like nothing would happen to them. So I knew exactly what I was supposed to do to protect myself, to defend myself. I knew exactly that. But somehow, I couldn't do that. Why? Because the Holy Spirit says he will fight. Jesus said he will fight for you. And it doesn't make much sense until you find yourself, like Fashola said sometime in 2015, may your loyalty not be tested. Now, when your loyalty is tested, something critical happens. You're either going to, now I'm talking about your loyalty to Christ. If you're a Christian, when you've not gotten to that point, when your loyalty is tested, when you know that, okay, when the Bible said, I will fight for you and you will hold your peace, when God was speaking to the children of Israel. Now, when you have those situations, when Jesus said to us in the Mark 24, that the Holy Spirit is our helper, is our advocate, is our supporter. We don't understand some of these things until we are literally faced with situation where we have, by law, by all justice standard that the human has presented, you should do this. When you're in position to hurt people back, when you're in position to do things to people because of what they've done to you, you find yourself not being able to do that, yet your flesh struggles with you so much. Then when you have come to that point in your Christian life and you're tempted to say, should I do it like the human would do it, or should I let God do what God needs to do? Then you get to understand that what Jesus was dealing with while he was on the cross of Calvary, while he was being nailed to the cross. Let me quickly take this scripture and then I'll come back to explain this better, because until we get to that point and let God be God and choose to love and choose the path of peace, we cannot really say we are being good Christian. Now, this is the story of the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. As they were going out, they met a man from Cyrene named Simon, and they forced him to, I'm reading from Matthew chapter 27 from verse 32. Now, I'm going back to the scripture. Now, they met a man from Cyrene named Simon, and they forced him to carry the cross, and they came to a place called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. There, they offered Jesus wine to drink mixed with gall, but after tasting it, he refused to drink it. When they had crucified him, they divided up his clothes by casting lots, and sitting down, they kept watch over him there. 37 says, above his head, they placed the written charge against him, this is Jesus, the King of the Jews. 38, two rebels were crucified with him, one on his right and one on his left. 39 says, those who passed by hurled insult at him, shaking their heads. 40 says, they were shaking their head and saying, you are going to destroy the temple and build it in 3 days. Save yourself. Come down from the cross if you're the Son of God. In the same way, the chief priests, the teachers of the law, and the elders mocked him. Now 42 says they said he saved others, he said, but he can't save himself. He's the king of Israel. Let him come down from the cross and we'll believe in him. 43, he trusts in God. Let God rescue him now if he wants him. He said, I am the Son of God. Now in the same way, the rebels who were crucified with him also heaped insults on him. Now, quickly to 45. From noon until 3 in the afternoon, darkness came over all the land. 46. About 3 in the afternoon, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, which means, my God, why have you forsaken me? When some of those standing there heard this, they said he's calling Elijah. Immediately one of them ran and got a sponge. He filled it with wine vinegar, put it on a staff and offered it to Jesus to drink. The rest said, now leave him alone. Let's see if Elijah comes to save him. And when Jesus had cried out again in a loud voice, he gave up his spirit. Okay, back to the conversation now. So, you know, when the Holy Spirit brought this scripture to my mind that Friday night while I was dealing with my personal issue, one thing was clear. Well, I didn't understand it. Then he said to me, did God at any point take away the power of Jesus Christ to save himself? The power he had to disappear when they wanted to attack him, the power he had to do certain things. Did God take any of the power that Jesus had away from him? I said, no, that didn't happen. And truly, no, there was no part of the scripture that said Jesus didn't have the power to save himself, to deal with the people who were dealing with him at that point. He had the power to do that. But he didn't take that step because he wanted the will of God to be fulfilled. Even in the deepest of the pains he was feeling in his flesh, in his struggles, he cried that he felt neglected, he felt abandoned by God. Yet, even when the thing he was asking for to be relieved from the pain of the cross that he was feeling in his flesh, he never, ever stopped the will of God from happening. He never took laws into his hand. Imagine someone who had all the powers to defend himself, to deal with situation, yet he allowed himself to go through the process where people hurled insults at him. He was in so much pain. People who shouldn't talk to him were talking to him. People who shouldn't insult him were busy doing all that. They were mocking him. You said you're the Son of God. Oh yeah, now save yourself. Let's see. Those who were even criminals on the cross were also hurling insults at him. You know, the interesting part about this, like I said, is the fact that Jesus had all his powers intact. The power was never taken from him. He had all the power, yet in the midst of the deepest of pains, in the midst of the deepest of hurts. Imagine someone telling you that, oh, you said you're the Son of God, you can destroy this temple and build it in 3 days. Oh yeah, let's see you now. You get power. Let's see you. They mocked him even when he had the full powers to destroy them. He had the ability to do that, yet he restricted himself, stayed on until the will of God came and he gave up the ghosts. At that moment, while I was, thinking through this portion of the Bible, when the Holy Spirit brought it to my mind, it dawned on me that becoming a Christian is not a joke. Becoming a Christian is not a joke. It is far beyond what we do when we talk about, oh, I went to church today, which is good. Hebrews 10:25 said we should not forsake the gathering of ourselves. Yes, so that's good. Now, it is beyond preaching the gospel. It's beyond, saying I'm a born-again child of God. It's about getting to that point when you know you should lift your hand to defend yourself, when you know you should do something to protect yourself, yet you couldn't do it. It's not about all the erasmatas we do. We go to church, we sing, we dance, we praise, we do all that. When you get to the point when your loyalty to God, when he said he will avenge for you, yet your flesh says, must avenge for myself. And then like Jesus Christ, you're sitting pute and you're watching and you're saying, Father, help me now. This is too much for me. And sometimes it feels like God is silent. You have watched people deal with you for years. You've watched people hurt you for years. You've watched people do things they shouldn't do to you for so long. Somehow, you're not able to do anything because you're a Christian. I think that's where the test of loyalty to God comes in. Would you let God fight for you, or would you fight for yourself? You have watched people betray you. you're tempted to go the other way, like we say, go look for juju and deal with them. You're tempted to go do things that you shouldn't do in the first place, yet you stay put. You're like, no, this is not what the Bible said. The Bible said this. You see, when that test of loyalty to either do the will of God or to do what our flesh wants us to do comes, that's when we certainly realize that, oh, we are becoming a Christian. And until we get to that point, it becomes really difficult to say, oh, I'm a Christian, or I can be a Christian. Like I said, that Friday night, it dawned on me that becoming a Christian is no joke. It is not about our Sunday or weekly activities. It is far much than that. But again, we'll take a short break. When we'll come back, we'll go into another part of what it really means to become a Christian. Stay with us. I good to have you back. So if you're just joining, this is Get Lifted. It's a segment in Atn Sunday. And on Get Lifted, we're looking at becoming a Christian and being able to face your toughest battles and still choosing to do it God's way. It is the toughest of all battles. Like Josmea would say, that the battle we have to fight is in our mind. Because in the battlefield of the mind, she has a book on that and all that. But let's look at something very critical about walking the path of righteousness. Walking the path of peace. It is never easy. You will be faced with a lot of hurdles. It could be in your personal relationship with members of your family or household. It could be in a workplace. It could be in your business place. It could be even in the church. Even in the church. I've had a situation, I've had a pastor tell a lie against me, a pastor in this town, tell a bold lie against me. I have evidence. But that one, when I just walked away in anger, I'm like, I'm done with these people and then. But that's not what I'm talking about here. Being in that position where you know that your faith is being tested, circumstances of life is testing your faith. You have waited for so long to have a child, nothing seemed to be happening. But your neighbor or friend or sister-in-law, brother-in-law, mother-in-law who told you that, let's go to this medicine man, this juju priest has helped this 1-2 person to have a child. Somehow, you're still waiting. It's been 20 years. When are you going to give me a grandchild, for instance? You are at that point when your loyalty is being tested. Your loyalty to God is being tested. And then your husband is getting old, you're getting old, and everyone is questioning, when will it ever happen? You have done everything within your power to see that you have a child, or that you succeed, or that you get married, or that you're able to get a job, or do whatever it is that you need to do. Somehow, as a Christian, you are at that point where all the options you can see physically is for you to stray your hand into doing evil. Now the question is, when you get to that point, what will count? What would count? Is it your loyalty to God, or would you say because of perishable things, or things, oh, if I don't buy this car this December, if I don't build this house this year, if I don't get married this year, and because of these circumstances the life throws at us, or maybe because they're insults, maybe your life is being put in danger, maybe certain people are doing certain things that will actually push you to do wrong, and then you're in that between, taking the step to go to the negative, to do the wrong things, as the case may be. I'm not talking about being in an abusive relationship where you know that someone is doing something to hurt your life or to threaten you or your children, and then you stay in. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm saying when you are faced with an option to go the wrong way, to go the way that is against scriptural standard, what will you do? Would you choose to be loyal to God even against the odds, like the Hebrew boys and Daniel did, 3 Hebrew boys and Daniel did? Or would you choose to say, well, Father, I have been a Christian for 20 years, for 30 years, I still don't have money, and I'm getting old, I can't pay my bills, my children are suffering, I can't continue like this, let me go back to that my village juju so that I can do something about it. If Jesus had taken the short way out, if he had taken the way out to feel, okay, I have this power, I can make this happen, I can destroy these people. If he had, like Elisha did, if he had done that, you and I would not be partakers of the salvation we have today. So you get to that point, I remember again Apostle Paul talking about how he had issues with his skin, how he was sick for a long time, and he kept petitioning God to help him, to heal him. And he said, God said to him, my grace is sufficient for you. He didn't say you're healed. He said, my grace is sufficient for you. So in the time of the pains that life throws at us, in times when we find ourselves, in situations where we can no longer help the situation that life has thrown because there seems to be no way out. Maybe like me, you're losing your mind and you don't even know what else to do. That is when the test of becoming a Christian actually sets in. Now, the option is between doing what your flesh wants you to do as a way out or doing what God wants you to do. Trust me, it's a difficult place to be in, especially when you know that there are things you can do to hurt these people back. Especially when you know there is a native doctor man that you can go to and he does one or two things and then you have a child. Especially when you know that you can take certain steps, yet you're forced to say, this is not the way of God. This is not the way of righteousness. We are asked to walk the path of righteousness, and this is not the path. And then you take a step back. You may not see the glory of it, like why Jesus was on the cross in pains and groaning in pains. He didn't see it. He felt dejected. He felt left out. Maybe you're feeling that way right now. We are asking you from here on Atlantic Television this morning to get lifted and trust that God got your back. It is not time when you're being tested, when your faith as a Christian is being tested, when you're at that point when you're struggling to become a Christian in actual sense of it by applying biblical principles, by trusting God, even when your body and everything around your life circumstances doesn't seem like it. That is when your test to becoming a Christian comes in, and then what you do at that point is very critical. Is it important to have a child? Yes. Is it important to fight back to defend yourself? In most cases, yes, or in some cases rather, yes. However, what if in fighting back you end up hurting another person or other people? What if in fighting back, what if in taking steps to go meet someone to have a child because you don't have a child, and then you end up having a contract or covenant with a demon spirit that will not begin to hurt your life and your family generations to come? Have you considered that? Because you want to make money today. There are people we've heard who made money the other way, and at the end of the day, we can't even tell their stories today. I don't want to mention names, but with their children, their life and everything basically fell apart. Some of them even died in the process. But here we are today in 2022, being faced with the struggles that people in the past faced. Some of them took the other way and we saw how it ended. But we are here today telling you that to get you lifted out of that pain, out of that fear, out of that struggle. And that's where you need the Holy Spirit. I didn't have anyone, even I've had people to speak with me on Friday night. I still got to this point where I'm like, okay, Father, help me, because I can't help myself at this point. I'm losing my mind. I'm tempted to call one or two persons to deal with this situation the way my body feels like it at the point. But what if I had done that, I would have ended up hurting someone that I shouldn't have hurt. I would have ended up hurting people that I shouldn't have hurt. And then this consideration sometimes will help you in taking a step back and choosing to become a Christian. Like I said, becoming a Christian is tough. It's not these things we do. It's not this our prosperity gospels we preach every day. Becoming a Christian is tough. And until you get to that point, when your body challenges you, when things happen to you and you're challenged, you will not really understand that becoming a Christian is not a joke. It is not a joke, guys. So if you're going to be a Christian, these are the paths. When you are faced with the option of doing ills to hurt someone, when you are faced with the option of doing what you shouldn't do to hurt someone, remember that there is a God who is the head of all principalities, who knows how to fight for you and fight better for you. Look back at some experience in the past. Don't give up now. Or you don't have a child. That could be your major challenge. My dear, why don't you think of surrogacy? If you can't afford it because it's quite expensive, have you asked your loved ones around if any of them can actually help to carry a baby? Why wait till you get into menopause and then your eggs are no longer healthy or your husband's sperm is no longer healthy before you now begin to think of an option? The seed is still your seed. That your womb didn't carry that child doesn't mean that that child is not yours. So surrogacy is one of those options that you can think about. Okay, and then like I said, maybe you can't afford to do this standard, but you could have a loved one who could actually agree to carry this baby for you. A lot of people do that. Sometimes there are stories around the world where it's even a mother carrying a child for her own child because they couldn't have a child. She couldn't carry a baby. You know, there are big celebrities out there that have had to do this. So that's an option. You can, instead of you going to put your hand into something that you shouldn't do, you can also think about adopting. You could pick up your brother's child or your sister's child, adopt that one to become your own child. Train that child the way you would train your child. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Do not stray your hand into evil. Is it difficult? I'm sitting down here telling you on Get Lifted on ATN that yes, it is difficult. Is it something that fights you, that makes you want to feel like I will deal with you? You know, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. When you are in that position, no matter what the reasons may be, you've got to remember that if you're going to be a true Christian, like Jesus Christ took such pains, imagine being battered, walking for such a long distance with canes and all that on your body. Yes, he had the power to destroy all of them. He didn't do that. Imagine having the power to deal with a situation that is hurting you so bad, and then you couldn't do it because you've got an example. Was Jesus Christ exalted at the end of the day? Oh yeah. I mean, thousands of years later, he's still the strongest entity that ever walks the surface of the earth. What does that tell you? When God fights your battle, it comes out excellent. So no matter what you're going through, are you in a relationship and you've put in your all and it still looks like nothing is going to happen? Come on. Pray about it and ask the Holy Spirit the best way out. Do not take laws into your hand. Do not destroy something good you've done because someone is behaving a certain way. Then there is no difference between you and that person. You know, the path of forgiveness, the path to becoming a Christian is literally speaking is tough. It's like walking on hot coals. You're feeling the pains. It's burning your feet. Yet you're going to walk on that path. So if you've been struggling with your faith, if you found yourself in situations where like, no, now I've got to deal with this situation, the devil will push you, circumstances of life will push you to see that you lift your hand to hurt someone. When your wife does something wrong and you feel because you're bigger than her, you can beat her up, think of the children in the home. Think of them in the sense that when they see you batter their mom, you hurt them. They feel the pain. They may not feel the physical pain in their body, but they feel the pain in their mind and in their hearts. When your husband does something wrong to you and you want to punish him because you feel that he has messed up with you, yes, forgive. If he's messing with your health and all that, you have a right to step aside. But don't sit in front of your children to rain insults, to downgrade their father, because that man, that man has a part of them inside of the children, a part of him inside the children. So you can't sit in front of them and then you're saying things that you shouldn't say. You don't downgrade their dad before them, and you don't downgrade a mom before the children. So whatever this life is, whatever is hurting you right now, and then you're a Christian, remember that becoming a Christian is a tough battle. Jesus faced it and God glorified him. Isn't that why he is our best lover today? Isn't that why he is our savior today? Isn't that why we can call on his name and things change for us? So when you find yourself facing your toughest battles, your mind is at mess, you're forced to poison your husband because he cheated on you, or he used something to hit him, to kill him, my sister, remember that there are children involved. There are his loved ones who didn't hurt you. These are some of the checks we need to look at and say, okay, let me not destroy this whole family, these children, because of this man or because of this woman. You can take a step away. You can also decide to let go and forgive and move on. Whatever you choose to do, remember that becoming a Christian means that you've got to walk through tough parts. And these tough parts are what turns around to determine what your faith looks like. So from Get Lifted on Atn Sunday this morning, stay strong and win, because you've got it in you to win. We'll be right back with ATN, with some feelers, and then of course by 9 a.m. we'll get you to have ATN Sunday Talk. Don't go, we'll be right back.
A world without tomatoes is like a string quartet without violins. Lauren Cohen, 1994 to 1992. Fruits and vegetables are a vital part of nutrition. One of such vegetables that have proven their nutritional value over time is tomato. Tomato is a vegetable commodity which originated in Western South America and Central America. It is consumed worldwide today. The edible berry part of the plant, Solarium lycoperiscum, is what we call tomatoes, also known as love apple and wolf's peach. Tomato in common parlance is treated as a vegetable, although botanically speaking, it is actually a fruit. Tomatoes are good antioxidants. The antioxidant lycopene has been linked to many health benefits, such as purifying the blood, nourishing the skin, lowering cholesterol, and reducing migraine. More so, it boosts immunity, lowers the risk of heart diseases, stone formation, and cancer. This vegetable contains vitamin A, B, C, E, and K. Other components are potassium, folate, carbohydrates, fiber, and 95% water. Tomatoes are grown all times in the year with the help of greenhouse. However, they grow faster in temperate areas and take about 5 to 10 days to germinate. Nigeria is the largest producer of fresh tomatoes in sub-Saharan Africa and 13th in the world according to Google Reports 2021. The country produces 10.8% of fresh tomatoes in the region. Over the last decade, fresh tomatoes had grown by 25%, from 1.8 million tons to an estimated 2.3 million tons. Tomato farming in Nigeria is done predominantly in the northern region: Kano, Jigawa, Plateau, Borno, Kaduna, Gombe, Bauchi, Sokoto, Kebbi, Nasarawa, Zamfara, and Kogi. These states have large plantations where the commodity is harvested. Beet sleek tomatoes are the common variety grown in the country. Its varieties are cherry tomatoes, grape tomatoes, Campari tomatoes, patio tomatoes, and Purendi wine tomatoes. Others are plum and Roma tomatoes, which are similar. The plum contains lesser amounts of seeds and water compared to other varieties. Tomato is a significant source of umami flavor, a basic taste in broth and cooked meals. It can be consumed in diverse ways. Cooked, put raw in salad and in drinks. If you do not want to have to deal with the lingering sour or edgy taste, go for the plum variety. It can be found in the Nigerian markets. Tomatoes grace a number of delicacies in Nigeria. It is used for chicken stew, beef stew, goat meat stew, fish stew, and just about any acceptable protein. Soups such as melon soup and okra have been served with tomato sauce. Vegetable sauce is yet another common delicacy that grows in sight and taste with moderate slices of the love apple. And of course, it can be sliced thinly for sandwiches and salads, used as appetizers or added to various pasta. Speaking of food preservation and consumption, it's commonly said that the fresher, the better, and this cannot be underestimated. But the toll on preservation issues have been ringing like a screeching bell. Refrigeration and drying remains the general and effective ways of preservation. Specifically, however, canning, oven drying, or sun drying are other effective ways depending on choice of use. In Nigeria, tomatoes has not only provided investment opportunities and job creation, but it has also been a means of income to many farmers and traders alike. Consumers have also tried to home grow tomatoes, and this has saved them some monies. Foreign exchange earnings as tomatoes are exported have been handy for the development of other sectors. Tomatoes has always been a mainstay in the food industry, So vital it is that individuals, groups, and government must be involved in its yield. Perhaps seek ways of improving its already colorful yield by supporting related research and ensuring regular production and availability for the growing population.
Remember else can be perfect like the love that you've shown to me. No one else, only you, gives me beauty for ashes. No one else, only you, sets my feet on the rock. No one else, only you, mends my heart when it's broken. Only you. Iwanika, celery. You make my life complete. Iwanika, celery. You make my life worth living. Only you. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. You are mighty God, mighty God. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Time, time, mighty one, time, one who sits high but looks way down low. You are good, you are kind, you are more than these. Lost for words, trying to describe you. Elohim, Elion, Ale Shelevi. Your greatness is all I see. There is nothing you cannot do. There's no mountain you cannot move. If you have said it, then you will do it. 'Cause you have a track record of keeping your word, and you're not about to stop doing it.
All right, good to have you back on ATN Sunday. And that was a very beautiful piece there from Nathan Abasi and Co. Indeed, our God is mighty, and that we cannot get tired of stating that. Prior to this time, we brought you a short documentary on tomatoes, the health benefits, and we hope that we are making your morning good if you have been following us this morning. And right about now, we are still on ATN Sunday. We're going into ATN Sunday Talk. And on ATN Sunday Talk, we are going to be discussing Nigeria's security program. And then Osiban just saying that his party, the APC, is committed to the welfare of the common man. And after that, we're going to also, in the same ATN Sunday Talk, we're going to be looking at society reform. And on society reform, we're looking at Africa needs a new liberation movement. This is according to Soludo. So details of all this, we'll be hoping that we get to bring you a good Sunday morning talk on national issues or issues that are making the news. My guest on the show who is joining us via Zoom is Clem Ofoku, who is the head of News Silverbird Communications, and Dr. Diken Lawrence Bekwele. Hopefully he joins us here in the studio, but let's get on with the show. Now, what was Osibanjo talking about when he made that statement? But let's also remind you that ATN Sunday is a magazine program where we get to bring you issues that are making the news, talk about some of these issues, bring you religious issues. It's a Sunday. Sunday is the day that Christians worship, just to make sure that we'll get you started on the right note. Now, let's get to our first story quickly. What was Osibanjo talking about here on the Nigeria Social Security Program? Now, like I said, he said the APC is committed to the welfare of the common man. Now, he said this via his aide during a meeting with delegation of the APC Professional Forum. Then the Vice President said that the APC is a party of the people and would continually ensure that the common man benefits maximally from the government. Now, he spoke through his aide, Laole Akande. His VP said that his party, is a party of the common man, a party of the people, a party that takes as its cradle the importance of ensuring that the common man benefits maximally from the government, which is why we have the big programs like the social investment programs, the largest of its kind in the continent, and several of such other programs that emphasizes how serious we are to take the lot of the common man. Now, while it was formed about 9 years ago, the VP noted that the party has made an impact and is determined to improve the well-being of Nigerians, that the party is also where many young people are. Now, according to him, APC is the ruling party in Africa's largest democracy, which by itself is a phenomenal achievement for such a young party. Now, the question we are asking is that at this rate, is it safe to say that the 2023 campaign is looking like a climb through the demand chain? Now, so if the APC is banking on their welfare packages for a bailout in 2023, what will the other parties count on? For Osiban just said that the APC is determined to ensure the country's further growth and development as the party carried with the hopes and expectations of millions of Nigeria. Welcome once again to ATN Sunday Talk. Hello, Clem. Good morning.
Morning.
All right, good
to be with you.
Thank you very much, Clem. Good to have you on ATN Sunday Talk. So the first story I just took was on Osiban just saying that his party is committed to the welfare of the common man. Every time, for years now, from trader money to other social investments that they have made, the 5,000 and thereabouts, you win and other, one begins to wonder what exactly is this social welfare program, and then how exactly is this, what is the common man needs in today's Nigeria? What's your take on this conversation as it is, Clem?
Well, firstly, let's look at what social security program is all about, and then if you look at it from the angle of what happens in other countries, and you begin to wonder what they mean by social security program, because what happens in Nigeria is not a structured system, so we don't have it as something that is organized in such a way that everyone who falls in that category benefits from it. A program that takes care of maybe 2 or 4%, you can't pride with that. It's not something that a political party would come out and say that they're actually carrying out any social security program, because if you look at the vulnerable in society, look at those who don't have jobs, the unemployed. So how many of them are taken care of? If you look at the people who fall, the old people, for instance, how many of them are taken care of by this program? What about those who are the incapacitated, the disabled? If you look at in that category as well, so you find out that it's not something that APC as a political party would come out to showcase as one of the achievements, because it does not actually reach out to many people. Just about 2% of the population. The homegrown school program, how many primary schools are affected? Just a few. And so that's not something that, in my mind, that because if you have a program like this, it's beyond rhetoric. It's something that should be on ground that everyone will see. A lot of young people are not employed. So how many of them are affected? How many of them get stipends from the government, like John SES? So for me, it is not a program for them to come out and brag, brag with it that they have a social security program. There's no social security program in Nigeria, because in the first place, it's not structured, it's not there's no law backing it. So by the time this government leaves, even the home school grown program, the Empower program, they all fizzle out. So the new government will begin to think of what to put on ground again. So for me, that's not something that anybody should be happy about.
Now, if you look at this same party he's trying to promote, this is not saying we are for or against the APC, but let's try to speak truth to power here. If you look at the APC and the promises they made when they came into 2015 as a matter officially, you begin to ask yourself, where are the jobs? And when we say where are the jobs, we still have a lot of unemployed persons around in Nigeria today. If you look at the index of unemployment, that says a lot. And beyond the unemployment, what are the promises they made when it comes to okay, which of the promises should we begin to look at? So when you say APC is the party of the people, that is the programs are planned because of the people, and all that has to do. You already pointed at it that we don't have a social security program. Now, when we see the Vice President of Nigeria, a senior advocate of Nigeria, of course, a minister of the gospel, making such statements, is it safe to say that he is not speaking for the people? Because if these things are real, we should be seeing it. I don't know what you think, Clem.
Exactly. You see, when you have a program designed to uplift people from poverty to maybe affluence, in a situation where they can afford to square their meals, I mean, everybody will see that change. But in this instance, not happening at all. So, a lot of people are even getting poorer and poorer, and many people cannot afford to feed themselves or feed their families. A lot of people lost their jobs within this period. So it's not showing in anywhere. It's just like a drop in the ocean. Like I mentioned, about 2% of the population is just benefiting from the program you mentioned. And that's not something that anybody should be happy about, because what about the rest of over 100 million Nigerians live below the poverty line? And so if out of 100 million, and you can only take care of 2% or 4%, that's the factory, and that doesn't change anything at all. So whatever they are doing to the Empower, to the school, the program, they feed some primary school pupils, it is not changing anything at all, because the number is still significant. That's the point. Yes, they have that program or those programs, but they're not impacting on people's lives, because it is not changing anything at all. So no one is even seeing the change they are making. Nobody is seeing it because it is too insignificant. They haven't even touched up to, we can't say they achieved an average, because 2%, 4% is nothing compared to the over 100 million poor people that we have in the country.
It there clearly. Now, there's something else the Vice President Yemi Osinbajo just said that according to him, his party, the APC, the ruling party, is Africa's largest democracy, which by itself, according to him, is a phenomenal achievement for such a young party. Let's hold a break here. What has his party be the largest democracy and a phenomenal achievement because they are about 9 years old? What has that even got to do with the delivering on the dividends of democracy?
You know, it's looking at the figure, the population, number of people in the party, but that has nothing to do with the welfare of the people. You know, it's like when someone says, okay, because I'm 50 years old, then I have I'm wiser than someone who is 30 years old. It doesn't go that way. You know, that you have a whole lot of population in your party because of how huge Nigeria is. That's not what we are talking about. The effect of your administration should be seen on the masses. You know, until that's done, whether you are speaking in your party and you are the ruling party, or the impact of your administration is fed by the population, then we can say, yes, your party is phenomenal. But when that doesn't exist, all you look at is, oh, we have total number of people in our party. Our party is the largest in Africa. But in terms of getting to deliver the goods to the people, and it's not happening. So that's not enough. Look at Rwanda, small as it is. You can see how much progress they're making. You know, it doesn't have to be the largest political party in power to make that change. So for me, it's just a distraction. That's not what we're looking at. We're looking at a political party that has an agenda, a political party that is able to deliver the agenda that it has, and a political party that understands that, look, there's power shortage in the country, let's fix it. Understand that we have a huge population of young people who are not employed. Let's see how we can give them jobs or create the enabling environment that will enable them to create jobs for themselves. So until you begin to look at those indices, you can't say that you are the largest political party. That's not enough. The number is not enough. It's what you're doing that's the issue.
All right, thank you, Clem. Now, considering how easily it is to sway the average hungry man on the street with even as small as 200 and 500 to vote them into, to cast their vote for a particular candidate or party, like what we have seen during elections, and this is towards 2023. Is it safe to say that this has become a tool for 2023 campaign for the vice president as his achievement or his party's achievement?
For me, it's going to be tough for them because in 2015, well, people looked at them when they said, we will do this, we will do that. So there was actually no scorecard because the party was actually new. It emerged after the merger between the Atn and then the Buhari party. But today, it's going to be a different we're going to use, the people will use a different scorecard. So you have been in power for 5, 6 plus. So so people are going to look at, okay, power, for instance, what achievement do they have there? Job creation, what achievement do they have there? In the issue of security, what achievement? So now it's a different ball game completely. So we're not going to listen to rhetoric. We're going to listen to practical examples by the party. So if in 2015 they told us some stories and people believe, 2023 is a different game because now we have seen them perform. We have seen 6 years plus. So what have they achieved? So that's what is going to be this time around. So I believe that they should do better than what they are doing, rather than telling us what we're not seeing on ground.
Of a climb through the demand chain for the APC in respect to what they're already talking about, their party being for young people and their social security program, as the case may be. That is their party, not for the country, because like you said, there are no policies backing these giveaways or palliatives out, as the case may be. If now the APC is depending on, rolling out their social programs, Empower, Trader Money, and or what have you, as a means of the school feeding program as their achievement, or pushing it into the people, considering where we are, like I said earlier, what then would be the opposition parties? What are they going to count on in order to sell themselves to the people? Because I think it might take, I may be wrong, but it's looking ridiculous that in 2022, when nations are talking about building the best ICT hubs around their countries and all kinds of development that we should be talking about, we are here looking at achievements as doing giveaways, that could say on social media. You give 5,000 to people, you share certain money to your party members, and that becomes what you talk about. So if they are going to count on that, what do you think these other parties will now count on as we approach 2023?
Well, I think that for PDP, for instance, they are going to puncture some of those arguments made by the APC. For instance, in the area of security, before they came on board, it said, well, within a short period of time, the issue of Boko Haram will be a thing of the past. But that didn't happen, and it still hasn't happened up to now. So they also look at the issue of electricity, which they also promised they were going to find a solution to. That hasn't happened. The issue of subsidy on petrol, which they called a scam. So at the end of the day, they also joined in participating in that scam. So these are some of the things that the PDP will come with. Recognize also that in 2023, we may have the candidate, not the political party, might be determining factor. So if the PDP presents a candidate who has the influence across board, across the country, that might actually be the turning point. Same applies to the APC as well. So because as a political party, I think they don't have so much to present as in their scorecard, but if they have a candidate who defines the new generation, a candidate who thinks along the line of ICT, because that's where the world is at the moment, that is the game changer, not necessarily the political party. So for me, the PDP, they have so much to contend with at this time around, because we have given you this opportunity. Look at what you have made of it. So we can come back. If we come back, we'll do better than what you are doing at the moment. Unlike 2015, where everything was on the PDP, they were just there to defend. So now the game has changed. The APC will be the one to be at the defense, not the PDP. So the attackers are the PDP, and so they have a better advantage to look at the programs of the APC and attack the party with those shortcomings that they have.
In this same meeting with the APC professionals, Osibanjo said that the APC is also determined to ensure the country's further growth and development as a party carried with it the hopes and expectations of millions of Nigerians. What further growth are we looking at, and what hopes and expectation of millions of Nigerians? Isn't this some form of an exaggerated view or attestation of who they are as a political party?
Well, there's nothing wrong in seeking the support or the expertise of professionals, and that's accepted. That's what many countries do. But the point is, why now? I mean, you've been there for the past 6 years. Why haven't you leveraged on the expertise of these professionals to do the things that you're talking about? So for me, I think that politicking has already started, and so anything can be said at this time around. If you recognize the value, you recognize what these professionals can bring to the table. Why didn't you employ their services long ago? Why didn't you bring them on board long ago? You know, very well, excellent. They have what it takes to look at all other spheres of life and bring in their expertise, bring in their advice, their suggestions, and all that. But do we have the leadership, the leaders who will listen to them and do exactly what they do, what they say? It's not rocket science. Much of what we have in other countries, they've already laid down the template. All we need as a country is just to copy and just paste, and that would be all. So we're not in that. That's one of the reasons we're having some of these challenges. It's not because of want of professionals. We have them in all areas. But are we leveraging on their expertise? Are we looking at them to call them and say, look, for instance, the engineering field, what can you offer? You know, look at technology ruling the world, and Nigeria, what are we doing with that? Does it mean we don't have people who are good in those areas? We do, but they are not bringing them in. You know, so if he's saying that now, it's okay if they are ready to flatten on them, on their expertise, and make the most of them and introduce things that would bring the turnaround. But if it's just talk and end there, then nothing will change, and that's it.
All right, just before we wrap up on this segment, in your opinion, what should Nigerians begin to look out for in terms of political party and, of course, a candidate for any election in 2023? And that's on the backdrop that the man who is speaking and reeling out his party's supposedly social security programs, that we all know that it may not have hit the target, as the case may be, is a professor of law. He is a senior advocate, of Nigeria, and then not just that, he is also a minister of the gospel. So he's got it in terms of education, he got it in terms of religion, and yet he doesn't seem to be one of those who understands where Nigeria should be at this point, as he still counts on this as their achievement and why people should look at them for hope. What then should be, do you think, in your opinion, should be the expectation? What should Nigerians begin to look at for in terms of political party or political candidate for 2023 elections?
Okay, I think that if you look at performance in terms of individuals, like you mentioned Professor Atn Sunday, or even the president himself, at the level, if you assess them as individuals, there's no problem with them. But you see, we don't have a system, a system where they run. You know, each of them is actually trying to see what is. So in spite of who Osibanjo is, for instance, he cannot make a change because the system that he operates on doesn't allow him to, you know, bring in the experience that he has or whatever he can do. So, but if we have a country where the system runs the country, the system is bigger than individual, so things will move smoothly. So I think that Nigerians should seek that kind of environment where we have a system that is superior to individuals, a system that is superior to the political party, a system that is superior to some institutions like the police, the army, and all that. So until we get that done, it doesn't matter how good that individual is. We thought with the kind of person Buhari is, that it was going to make a lot of change. Even people said his body language was enough to put some people on their toes. But that it just lasted 1 week after he has been the office. So they studied, they found that, okay, this man is no more a military leader, he's a democratically elected leader. So we can get away with some of these things. So we don't have to be afraid of him that like we used to when he was a military head of state. And they thought that worked. And so today that's what is also going on. So until we have that structure where institutions are more powerful than individuals, there's virtually nothing we can do. And that's one of the reasons people are clamoring for the review of the constitution. If that is done and a whole lot of changes are made, so maybe individuals will become the factors, the population, the voters will become the factors, the idea of manipulation, where elections are manipulated and all not would be minimized. And so until that, we may still continue to live, have the same old story if we do not have a system that regulates individuals. So we will be having the same old scenario.
All right, thank you so much, Clem. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll get into our second story for this morning on ATN Sunday Talk. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Good to have you back. You're still on ATN Sunday, and it is ATN Sunday Talk. We've looked at the first issue, Social Security Program, Nigeria's Social Security Program. Is it really a Social Security Program, or because is there a policy that backs up those giveaways? Is there anything that any other governments can come in and capitalize on that? We know that these are political party motivated giveaways just to keep the people asking for more, as the case may be. But again, Clem is one my guest for this morning. He's having this conversation with me via Zoom. Clem is the head of news at STV Port Harcourt, and we've looked at that issue. Now we're going into our second conversation on ATN Sunday Talk, and that's on society reform. Africa, this is coming from Soludo. He said that Africa needs a new liberation movement. Now, speaking of a liberation movement, Nigerian politics has become a cover for drug barons and fraudsters. This is coming from former CBN Governor Chukwuma Soludo, who won the Anambra State November 6, 2021 election on the platform of the All Progressive Grand Alliance, APGA. Now, yesterday, he spoke on the purpose and price of disruptive change at the first graduation ceremony of the School of Politics, Policy and Governance Pioneer in Abuja. The school is founded by former Minister of Education, Obi Ezekwesili. Now, the Anambra State Governor-elect said, indeed, Africa needs a new liberation movement. The first struggle was liberation from the colonial masters. Now, the second will be liberation from rentier politics and politicians. Now, he said for him, there is almost a sense of nostalgia, recalling the mission and accomplishments of our founding fathers, especially as we contemplate the world without oil in Nigeria. Now, he said much of the existing social order is founded on competition for and disruption of rents. Oil and the easy money that came with it destroyed the social fabric, and the elite created a new institutions and political structures to maximize their gains. He went on to say that as the news tightened globally on other rentier criminal enterprises such as drug trafficking or internet scamming, many of the barons flocked into politics as the next easy alternatives. So politics, according to him, has become big business. Appointment or election into public office is seen largely as an opportunity to eat rather than a call to selfless service. There is an army of rich big men who have never worked or done any productive work in their life and believe that it is their right to expect something for nothing. Now, he said a tiny less than 1% elite have a stranglehold on the public purse, sprinkling occasional crumbs to the citizens as dividends of democracy. Now, the citizens themselves, either out of helplessness or acquiescence, join the party, expecting politicians to dole out pittance out of public treasury as charity. Clem, welcome back to the second segment of Atlantic Sunday Talk this morning.
Thank you.
So, looking at Soludo, the governor-elect of Anambra State, Speaking of saying that politics is now a cover for drug barons, fraudsters, CBN, and all that. The question is, how true is this, looking at where we are politically and the political players?
I agree with you. The environment where it's coming from, he knows the state very well. And so if we continue this discussion in Anambra, Soludo has a good experience of what he's saying. A whole lot of politicians, especially those who are coming as freshers, so they understand the fact that you need money. You know, when we say money, we need huge amount of money to run any political office. And so the easiest way for them is to either get it through drug peddling, or today we are hearing of these Yahoo boys and all that stuff. So he's absolutely right. You know, we have a whole lot of them around us because they understand that in the game of politics, you need so much money to run their race. And you see that this is also another problem, because most times these people, the money bags, are people who actually do not have what it takes. They are not there to serve. They are not there to provide any change. You know, so because they have enough money to throw around, they actually give them the opportunity. They make the best candidates, the right candidates are relegated to the background. So Soludo just finished an election and talking based on his experience. So I think that he's absolutely right when he said it.
All right, thank you very much. Now, speaking of the purpose and price of disruptive change, which is the topic he spoke on at the graduation ceremony, one begins to wonder, do we have politicians without skeletons in their cupboards, without looting agenda or what have you, that could actually come up to disrupt the system that we presently operates in the name of politics and governance? You did mention initially in the other segment the lack of system and the having institutions that are bigger than politicians. So looking at this now, do you think, looking at Nigeria, do you think we have politicians with the will or the guts, as the case may be, to create a disruption that can reset the present quagmire of politics and governance that we find ourselves?
We do. We have a whole lot of them. And Professor Soludo is one of them. Now, if you look at what he said concerning his inauguration, he's saying he's not going to allow them to spend a dime for his inauguration. It starts with little things like that. You know, why would you spend 500 million, 200 million just for inauguration of a governor? What happens afterwards? So, from what he said and what he's likely going to do, he's one of the people we are looking at. So we have a whole lot of them. If you go to the other side, you have somebody like Professor Pat Utomi. These are people that if you have them as governor or as president, you sure know that they will come with things that will profit the ordinary people. They're not going there to live a lavish lifestyle, you know. So I see that we have them everywhere in all the states. But the point is that, do we give them the opportunity? Because they don't have this kind of money, you know, that we talk about in politics. So they will not be able to reach out. They will not be able to share rice, share wrapper, and all that. They will not be able to bribe security agencies and all that to help them during the ballot snatching and all that, to protect the ballot when they are snatched. So because of that, these kind of personalities, even though we have them in abundance, they are actually not given the chance to emerge as governor, local government chairman, commissioners in terms of appointment, or the president. So that's the problem. But whether we have them, yes, we do. We have them. And I believe that with what Professor Soludo has said and the way he has announced how his program would look like, I think that it's someone that who is likely going to set that agenda that we think that we need in governance.
For putting that clarity. So if we have the individuals that can bring about the disruptive change that can take us where we want to be or should be, as the case may be, do you now think that we are doing enough in terms of creating awareness for the average voter, for the average Nigerian to understand that taking 500 naira to cast your vote for someone who does not have your back, who does not have the pedigree to actually do what needs to be done for us to have better institutions and a better society, it's a major risk that that person will be taking. So are we creating enough awareness? Are we talking about this? Are we educating the people enough on what needs to be done when it comes to looking out for a political candidate, a candidate for a political, any political position, and of course casting the votes?
We're not doing enough, but you see, the problem is that when you have a people that are already conquered, so the only thing, the biggest challenge the poor man has is what to eat. And so whatever someone you bring to him is not connected to what he's going to eat, he is likely not to listen to you. And so he needs to understand it. And so they perpetually subdue the people and make them to remain where they are, so that even when a messaging that is likely going to change them comes, they are likely not going to listen to that message because they are hungry. Even in Turkey, sometimes you have a pastor speaking and people like, come on, this is not what we want. We need something to eat, So because we have a huge population of people who are struggling to feed, who are already conquered, so it doesn't matter how much you try to reach out to them, But you see, one of the reasons the only thing that can make a movement succeed is when it's driven by the ordinary people, If it comes from the elite class, it may succeed to a certain extent. By the time it begins to gather momentum, they change the course, Look at Zimbabwe, for instance. When late Robert Mugabe came, he was a liberator. But over time, he changed to a tormentor because that movement was driven by him. It wasn't actually driven by the citizens. So if you look at any change that will bring a permanent change in the society, it has to be driven by the ordinary citizens. Let's take a look at the NSAS movement, for instance. It was making a headway because it was people-driven. The ordinary people were part of it until things turned ugly. But that's the only way we can have the kind of movement that Professor Soludo is talking about. He, as a figure in that movement, he alone may likely not be able to make so much change until the people join and it becomes their own project. So if it becomes the people's project, you see that over time, within a short period of time, Anambra will become an example in this country. But if the citizens do not join him, then he will just be all alone. Then within a short time, that movement, that action he's taking will fizzle out. By the time they realize that, okay, his inauguration, we're not going there to eat and drink. So next time he calls for a meeting, be sure that not many people will turn up. But if they see this as someone who has come to change the status quo, to bring about a change that will, over time, help all the citizens in that state, so they support him and they give him their backing, then it becomes a norm. It becomes something that when the next, if he's through with his 8-year tenure, if that's what he's going to get, the next person comes, there's already a template. So he continues with that. So it becomes a system in that state. But if the people are not part of that movement, then it's going to die a premature death. So it's not going to survive over time. So that's what it is. Good, to have a transformation, a movement. It's needed in all parts of Africa at this time. But it has to be people-driven, not coming from the elite only.
think that's literally clear. At the end of the day, democracy is defined as government of the people, for the people, by the people. So without the people's involvement, in all honesty, no leader can truly achieve anything. Now, speaking of liberation, a new liberation, the Anambra State governor said, which is the subject of what we're talking about, that indeed Africa needs a new liberation movement. He spoke about the first being the struggle from the liberation from the colonial masters, and of course the second liberation being where we are today, to see that we break away from rentier politics and politicians. And then he went on to say that it's become a mission for us to accomplish this. How do you think we can begin to go about this liberation movement? If we're going to have a movement that is going to get the people to sit up and see that governance is not just about the man who is at the seat, but there should also be a demand from the people to ensure that the man at the top gets to sit up. How do you think this liberation movement can begin to happen, in your opinion, please?
I think that we should start from the scratch, take this message to the nursery schools, the primary schools, the secondary schools, and then to the tertiary institutions. If you look at our generation, it's likely not going to sink in if you begin to tell people from this age, oh, this is what politics should be like, this is how it should be like. There won't be that buy-in. But if you take it to the kids in nursery, primary, secondary school, I think that will go a long way. Look at America, for instance. If you meet a 5-year-old American, he understands the American dream because he has been taught. So he knows that this is the American dream. This is what we stand for as a nation. But meet a Nigerian who is even in his 20s, in his 30s, he doesn't understand because it's not been clearly spelled out for him or her. So he doesn't know do we even have the Nigerian dream? Do we have what we believe in? We don't know. So if we want this kind of change to make an impact to happen, I think that let's go to the basics, go to the nursery schools, go to the primary schools, begin to train them, begin to teach them to be leaders. For instance, when we have class monitors in these primary, nursery, and secondary schools, what do we teach them? Do they know that there's a reason why someone is made a class monitor? That's how it begins in other clients. So those prefects, those class monitors, they are not there for nothing. They are trying to raise you to become a leader in future. But you see, here we just look at them as something that just, okay, let's fill this gap. Let's have these people here. But the ideal is to raise them to become leaders, because if you're a class monitor, for instance, and there are 30 pupils in your class, and you're able to tell them, don't make noise, sit down, our teacher is coming, this is, it begins that way. So you are already learning that leadership style. You're already nurturing your leadership skills to be able to, talk to a group of people, make them to do exactly what your teacher says they should do. So when you graduate from there, you become another leader in another environment or an organization and all that. So we have to look at all these holistically and see that it's something that we're conscious of. We don't just do these things and we are not thinking of how to raise leaders. Even in churches, you are made a cell leader. It's something. They are trying to see how you can become a leader. How much do we take from all these experiences? That's the problem. So if we want to take this message, for me, let's go to that background, to the schools. Let's take it to the nursery schools, to the primary schools, to the secondary schools, then to the tertiary institutions, and begin to talk about leadership. Now, you see the school that obviously is set up, leadership school. It's good. But you see, those who are there they already form a mindset that might take a whole lot of energy to change. But if they have started it right from when they were in primary school, it will be so easy. All you need to do now is to learn the higher degree of leadership and not just learning it from at the age of 30, 40, 50, 60. It's not going to make so much change. But if we start teaching them from when they are little, I think that is what we require now.
Much claim. Let's come back to something else that was also critical, which he mentioned in the speech. Soludo talked about contemplating a world without oil in Nigeria. I don't really know how much possible that would be in the next 20, 30 years. However, he mentioned that the existing social order is founded on competition for, and of course, distribution of rents and all that. Of course, oil is easy money that came with, but of course it destroyed our social fabric, and the elite created a new institutions and political structure. How do you think we can begin to navigate our way out of dependence on oil? Because that's primarily what our economy depends on. How do we think we can begin to do that, and of course create room for better and richer politics that can bring about good governance in Nigeria?
Well, I think that you mentioned in the next 20, 30 years. For me, it's even closer than that. If you look at the language coming from all around the world, you see that electric cars are everywhere, you know, almost all auto companies are shifting, you know, they are transitioning to the electric cars manufacturing. And so that poses a threat to a country like Nigeria that depends solely on oil. It's no more news that this transition is already happening. You know, for us, every time you go for seminars and all that, they're talking of Delta State after oil, River State after oil, but there's nothing on ground. You know, at the moment, God bless this country so much that there are a lot of resources in all parts of this country. But those resources have not been harnessed, and it's about time the state started harnessing these resources. Agriculture, for instance, you see, when you have a large population, the best you can do for that population is to make food available. And anybody who ventures into agriculture will not incur any loss because you have the people to consume whatever you produce, you know. And that's the reason you find that a country like America consumes over 9 billion chickens every year. So they know that this is what they consume. And so they go all out to ensure that every year they produce much more than 90 billion chickens, you know. And that's huge. And that brings a whole lot of income to the farmers as well. So if we are seeing that this thing has started taking place, it is no more on the drawing board. It has left the drawing board. They are already implementing, getting all cars, making sure that in no distant time we begin to have electric cars everywhere. So it's a message to all our leaders that they need to go to other areas. Imagine like a state like River State. Why shouldn't I have enough fish? Someone could eat fish as a meal. Because this is River State, for instance. This is River State. But it doesn't happen. Fish is one of the most expensive items you'll find in the market, even though we are in River State. Because nobody has done anything to ensure that the rivers, the ocean that we have, that we have fishing trawlers all around them and engage in it to ensure that they get this job done.
All right. Okay, quickly, Clem, we are almost out of time. One critical question that also arose in this conversation by Soludo is the ability to separate the formerly drug barons that the news is tightening around their neck right now, who are not found in politics. Our politics is quite expensive. Elections are quite expensive, as a matter of fact. Do you think there is a way around this to ensure that we get to a point where elections are not so expensive and people don't have to depend on this criminal element in order to get contest to get into political positions?
Well, everywhere around the world, elections are very expensive, even in the United States of America. But you see, if we have a good candidate, the society, people in the society can rally around, contribute money, and ensure that that candidate finds his way to power. You remember the case of Obama. Obama didn't have any money. see people started donating 1 cent, $1, $2, and all that. So it was because in their own case, they spend most of their money on media advertising, so not to distribute to people. They spend so much money putting adverts and all that. So that's where most of the money they use in politics. That's where they spend it on. So it's also expensive in America. But you see, individuals contribute. It's not just for the candidate. Because you see, we believe in your program. We believe in what you're saying you're going to do. So how do you get it done? So we have to also be part of it. Just like even the political parties. Elsewhere, people who belong to political parties pay subscription so that the party can run. Not here where you have one individual, putting all the bills. And so when he says, I'm going to present a candidate, you start fighting him. But all along, he's the one paying the rent. He's the one paying all the staff in that political party. So now that he wants to bring a candidate, why should he debate that? But if all the party members pay subscription, so at that point, they can determine who they want to govern them. So I think that if we have a good candidate who doesn't have money, and we know that he has a good program, so we can raise money for that candidate. People can contribute. It doesn't matter the amount. 1 naira can add up to something and make it 1 million.
All right.
And all that.
All right. Thank you so much, Clem, for once again being part of the conversation on ATN, and of course today on ATN Sunday. So thank you so much, Clem. Clem is the head of news at STV Port Harcourt. Once again, good morning and thank you. Well, this is how far we can go on the conversation on ATN Sunday Talk this morning. And then we hope we've been able to bring you some conversation from religious to national issues that can get you started off on a good note. While we are after the show, we're bringing you immediately Open Air Sunday, which also looks at the broader political issues making the news. So thanks for joining us. I am Vivian Douglas. You can follow us on our social media handles. Facebook and YouTube is at Atlantic Television Network. Instagram is Atlantic TV Network. Remember that peace and unity are the pathway to progress. Good morning.